What's up, weirdos? I'm Felicia and I like scary movies, and today I'm talking about a new IFC midnight release called Resurrection, starring Rebecca Hall. Resurrection was written and directed by Andrew Siemens and follows Margaret, who's trying to protect herself and her daughter from David. David is an abusive ex-boyfriend who returns to Margaret's life after 22 years away. Now, overall, this movie had a lot of interesting things going on, had some good scares, good, very creepy elements to it, but wasn't a hit, wasn't a home run for me. Let's talk about why. Let's start with what I liked. First of all, Rebecca Hall is an incredible actress. After I saw The Night House, I was like, okay, I will watch whatever this woman does for the rest of my days because I think she is so talented. And in this, she is like amazing. Like, her performance is what makes this movie worth watching to me. And this character she's playing seems to be dealing with two things mainly. One, her own trauma from when she was a teenager, and then also motherhood in a couple of different ways in this movie. In one way, she's about to be an empty nester, so her daughter is like turning 18, about to leave the house, and she's dealing with that, and then she's also dealing with some other motherhood issues that I won't go into because it's a spoiler. But so she's dealing with a lot, and I would say kind of number one for her is what it means to be a good mother and grappling with the question of whether she is or is not a good mother. And then we have Tim Roth, who's playing David, who is basically Margaret's very creepy, manipulative, controlling ex-boyfriend from 22 years ago that, I mean, it gets very dark, people. The way in which he manipulates Margaret in her youth and now as an adult is just like so creepy and upsetting and gross, but played very well by Tim Roth. Good job. So I think both their performances are very strong. And then the horror elements for me are pretty good. There is some like very graphic imagery that we see kind of only once, but it's enough. Once is enough. It's something about an oven. Just oh, that's all I'll say. And then we have the horror elements associated with David's character, which include like stalking and, as I said, like manipulation and just overall creepy vibes. And all that stuff I think is pretty effective. But then, how do I put this? This is one of those movies for me that is either, I think I've said this before about other films, but it's either too small or too big for its britches. Does that make sense? Probably not. But basically all the things that unfold about the relationship between Margaret and David and just all this stuff, it's so bonkers. It's a lot of crazy stuff. And for me, it either needed to be taken down a notch to make it more believable, because I think this is where my issue starts to come in, is like so much of it just wasn't really believable to me, or it needed to be even crazier to really create like a heightened element to this film, particularly in some of the ways in which David tries to manipulate Margaret throughout the film. I just didn't buy all of it, if that makes sense. There's a phrase they use throughout the film called little kindnesses, which is basically the things that Margaret does for David to stay in his good favor or something. But the things that she does, I don't know. I just didn't really buy it for some reason. I just didn't really buy everything I was being told in this movie. And it makes me think, because the performances, once again, are good. So for me, it makes me think it's like somehow part of the writing that, once again, there's either too much going on or too little going on, and it just feels like a little muddled and confused. And I wanted to like this movie. I love Rebecca Hall. I love a psychological thriller. This movie had a lot of things going for it, but for me, it just didn't like knock it out of the park for me. And sure, there's like some exciting like catharsis and gore elements at the end that are you know, some striking imagery. Like, there's some cool things going on in this movie, but overall, I just was like, the perspective felt a little muddled, and the writing felt like a little like I understood that this was a movie about motherhood, but something about David's manipulation of her felt like it was then a movie about her surviving this like weird two-person cult or something. Yeah, okay. That's what I'm getting at. You can't imagine how much I've just talked that I'm sure I edited all of it out because I was trying to figure out what I didn't like about this movie, and I think that's it. This felt like a movie that was supposed to be about motherhood with horror elements, right? But it sort of ended up being about a woman that survived this horrible trauma with a man who basically had her in a 2-person cult. And I was like, not that a movie can't be about 2 things, but those things felt like they were competing for my attention when I watched this movie. And so I felt like it lacked clarity of what it was and what it wanted to be. Whew. Okay, I think that's what I mean. I think that was my biggest issue. Great. There's also, this is random, but there is like a 7-minute monologue Rebecca Hall gives. And I was like, is this a new thing that we're doing, like these very long monologues? Because also in The Bear, if anyone's seen that on Hulu, it's amazing. But there's like a 6-minute monologue straight to the camera that the main character gives. I was thinking back on Midnight Mass, and there was like these super long monologues. I was like, I'm not sure how I feel about these very long monologues for film. For theater, of course. For film, I'm not sure. I'm not sure it's working. But okay, this was not a bad movie. I know I had some complaints, but overall, it was scary. It was effective in many ways. But for me, I just like, I could feel the potential in it, and I just felt like it didn't hit where I needed it to hit. So that's why I'm sitting here complaining. But, you know, it's worth watching for Rebecca Hall. But if you want to check out Resurrection, you can rent it on VOD right now. I'll link the Amazon link down below. But that's it, people. I hope you enjoyed this video, and have a nice scream. Bye.